Hey, welcome back to Evil's Comics. This guy right here is Evil Mike. I hope y'all are having a great new comic book day. We got a whole bunch of new comic books are out there, right? And I hope you're out there supporting your local comic book shop if you can, or getting those books online, man, any way you can, right? There's a lot of good stuff. So I've touched on the first one already, so it's going to be from DC. We got DC versus Vampires. It's written by James Tynion the fourth and Matthew Rosenberg, and then we got art and colors by Otto Schmidt, and letters by Tom Napolitano. Sorry if I butchered any of those names. I apologize. There's no disrespect. I'm just bad with names. So of course we got the DC versus Vampires, a whole new 12-issue run that we're gonna get. And it's following the main character of Andrew Bennett, and he is AKA I Vampire, and he mentions it a couple times in the book. But we follow Andrew Bennett, and basically it's told through it's told through a letter, and you see him going through it. Basically, it tells the story that he's on the run, he's traveling during daytime, he's all covered up, he's headed to the Hall of Justice League. And as he gets there, he gets hit by a car, and that's kind of like where you get the reconfirmation that he is a vampire, because he gets hit by the car, and people start trying to help him and stuff, and like his bandages and the stuff that is protecting him from the sun kind of gets loose, and he starts to burn a little bit. It's only for a second that a lot of people see this, and like Green Lantern shows up, Hal Jordan, and he ends up like putting him in a protective barrier and takes him inside to a UV-less room where he's safe or whatever. And that's kind of where we get the main gist of the story. Hal Jordan, he starts asking him, what's going on, why he's here, and basically Andrew just states that he needs the Justice League help, and it's of moral importance, right? It's like the stakes of the world are right there, right? So he is greeted by one of the Wonder Twins, and it's Zan. I always forget their names, but Zan ends up coming into as Hal Jordan is talking to Andrew, and Andrew is still like recovering from being burned from the sun, but he's basically laying on this table, and he tells him what's going on, and basically that back in the past he used to be lovers with Queen Mary, who currently was like the head of the vampires, and somewhere in the mix they killed Queen Mary. Hearing this, Anne and Green Lantern, they're all like, oh, okay, one less vampire kind of thing, and he explains that it's not like that she was keeping like some of the world's dangers at bays kind of thing. She was the reason that the world hadn't already been taken over by vampires kind of thing, and she kind of kept them at a secretly distanced kind of bay to keep vampires protected as well. Now that she is gone, he's kind of stating that that they've unleashed like a whole different horror on the world. But trying to figure out who killed Queen Mary, of course, this being like his ex-lover and a friend, he starts on this hunt trying to figure out who killed her, and his investigation leads him to the Legion of Doom. He does sneak into the Legion of Doom and instantly finds out that most of the main members of the Legion of Doom are dead. They do show like the ventriloquist, they show like Black Mana, they show a couple other people. Some of them are very unrecognizable, or some of them just look too close to one another, But he does end up running into Lex Luthor. And Lex Luthor looks dead, and he kind of leaves him for dead, and Lex kind of like comes back to life and everything, and Andrew starts talking with him and telling him, like asking him what happened, and basically that the Legion had like very little to do with it, but the Legion was overrun nonetheless. And Lex Luthor saying that he took out as many as he could, but took a whole bunch of grave injuries in the process, but he still hasn't died yet. But he was basically like, he tells him like in this other room where these plans are, and Andrew goes into this kind of like meeting room in the Legion of Doom, and they have like this whole like laid out plan on how they were going to block the sun and how they were going to use a good potential portion of humans for like kind of like you know, a blood farm or something like that. With seeing these plans, he realized that, you know, the Legion of Doom has been taken over by vampires on some level. While he's talking to Lex basically tells him that he has one gift for him and it could save the world, and he basically takes a syringe and injects himself and pulls out some blood and gives it to him and tells him that he needs to take it to, you know, like the Hall of Justice or something like that to help save the world. He wants Andrew to make sure that people are aware that he is going to be responsible for saving the world, kind of thing. And ask Andrew to kill him. Andrew starts to bite him and he's like, no, fool, I don't want to become a vampire. He was like, that's what they were trying to do. He was like, you're going to have to kill me with your hands, and he does. As soon as he kills Lex Luthor, then you see a couple of the other Legion of Doom members that are still alive, but they've been changed, you know, into vampires, and you meet like Grodd, you meet like the Riddler, and you also meet Cheetah, who now know that Andrew has infiltrated the Legion of Doom, and they're trying to get him. He does run into the Riddler, and he ends up like barely escaping from the Riddler. No, he ends up injecting the Riddler, and he ends up killing him, and then escaping after that. But eventually he does, like at that point in the story, that's where they kind of fast forward, and Andrew is at the doorsteps of the Hall of Justice with Hal Jordan. Kind of concluding the story, right? So Hal Jordan kind of turns to Andrew and he's like, so you didn't find anybody else to help you? And he's like, no. And he's like, you know, you sure you didn't run into anybody else? And then at that moment, he basically, like, we find out that Hal Jordan has already been turned into a vampire, and he is working for the vampires in this plot that they have to take over the world, kind of thing. He instantly captures Zan and puts him in this weird, like, blender Green Lantern type thing, and then secures Andrew Bennett down. And Andrew Bennett is kind of confused because he tells the story that at one point, to help Andrew Bennett, like a time they had met before, like Green Lantern had to fly him into the sun to like help him or something, and it would have been in the time frame when Green Lantern would have turned into a vampire. And he's like, oh, how are you still alive if you're a vampire and you flew into the sun? And Green Lantern's like, ha ha ha, because the Green Lantern ring works on light. And he was like, because it's based on light and stuff like that, he's able to control, and, you know, said light and stuff like that. So he is able to like redirect the sunlight that comes in on him, and the light, his ring just kind of filters it out. But he can also use it as a weapon, kind of thing. And then at that point, he literally just burns Andrew Bennett to the ground, and he dies. At the same time, he drinks, you know, Zan the Wonder Twin to death, calling his blood like very watery. And that's kind of where they leave it at that point. We do see some scenes where Green Lantern is talking to someone, like telling them that he took care of the problem that was Andrew Bennett, you know, kind of thing. And he explains that Andrew Bennett didn't talk to anybody and that their plan is still secret, kind of thing. We do see Aquaman kind of walk up and he's like, hey, they called a meeting in the Hall of Justice, and Green Lantern goes back to fake, you know, good guy kind of thing. They flash over, and as you've been reading the comic, there is a third-person perspective, and it's set up in a letter form. And when you finally get to this point, you know, Andrew Bennett concludes, and he knows that he was going to die because he's like, farewell, you know, I'll never see you again, you know, Andrew Bennett, I Vampire. And we do get a scene where Batman's coming home after a long day at work, and he's coming into the Batcave, and Alfred has been waiting for him, and he tells him that they had received a visitor, that none of the alarms had picked up or anything that that Bruce's mansion in the Batcave has. So after learning of who it was Andrew Bennett, and basically that's what he did with the syringe. Before going to the Hall of Justice, we found out that Andrew Bennett did go to, you know, Bruce Wayne's mansion, and he ended up giving the letter and the syringe to Alfred to give to Batman, and then Batman reading the letter at the very end and finding all this. So it looks like Batman with Lex Luthor's blood or whatever was in the syringe is going to be what, you know, potentially saves the day, and that's where the issue leaves off at. I mean, for the beginning to a story, it was really good. It's a very quick read. The art is, I love the art. It was amazing. Um, I mean, there is. It's kind of surprising because there was a good amount of blood and stuff like that. And recently DC has been kind of amping up their blood factor a little bit. You know, recently in Joker #8, I was quite surprised at the amount of blood that was in that book. But this being like a horror story and stuff like that, you know, I mean, it goes hand in hand. So I was kind of surprised and pleasantly surprised that they went with a violent, you know, nature. But overall, it was really good. I liked it. You know, and I like the whole like, you know, twist at the end with Batman and stuff. But hey, that's my review. Let me know what you thought. You know, did you read this? Do you plan on picking it up? You know, that kind of stuff, that good stuff. You know, so let me know down below. Like, comment, subscribe. You know, all that good stuff. And I will see y'all pretty soon. I got a lot coming. Bye.